Tony, I appreciate responsibility we have, the duty we have, agent. So not deserved. Look, I just want to say,
showing my book how
one to interview Bobby Kennedy. So brave at the moment because, hundreds and hundreds of shows that we pitch wouldn't have Bobby on. But Steve Bannon, of course, he had him on and did just a great, great show. So here's a clip from that.
Why did all of the liberal democracies in the world pivot suddenly and have the same militarized and monetized reaction to the pandemic rather than having a public health response? And I show in my book how this was drilled year after year after year by a group of either pharmaceutical companies, by the social media companies, by the intelligence agencies, and by the medical technocracy, led by Tony Fauci.
Welcome back, Steve Bannon. Great to have you on.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. I want to announce today, too, I've hired Tony as my new agent. So thank you for the kind words, sir.
Anytime.
Not deserved. Look, I just want to say a few things, because I know you got other great speakers on. I hope today reiterated the responsibility we have, the duty we have to this, to our country, to our fellow citizens, to future generations, and really to the world about this apparatus that has grown up in how, because it's not simply Fauci is a very evil individual and Fauci is a megalomania and Fauci's a narcissist. Fauci is all that. But as Bobby Kennedy's book showed, The Real Anthony Fauci, and then in all the reporting that everybody did, this is a systemic problem, and it hasn't gone away. As soon as we lose political power, if this is ever, as soon as it's taken over by the opposition, we're going to be in the exact same shape. As much work as Bobby and others have done in this administration, we really haven't dismantled, particularly what Bobby says is so haunting, the militarized and monetized system, big pharma and their factotums in these government, not just the American government, governments throughout the world. We've only scratched the surface of taking this apart, of this deconstruction of the administrative state, or in this case, to take on and take a blowtorch to the deep state. So I hope today is a call to arms and re-energizes people of what our challenge is. I take pride in the fact that we shifted our show. We started War Room Impeachment the day, or basically in October of 19, when Nancy Pelosi started to get serious about the impeaching President Trump. And everybody in D.C. kind of blew me off that there was just Nancy Pelosi blowing steam. It wasn't going to happen. I go, no, you're absolutely dead wrong there. In mid-January, so 4 months later, because of my understanding of China, the Chinese Communist Party, and what was happening in Wuhan, we shifted the name of half of the show on 20 January to War Room Pandemic. We were the first for months of people taking this thing seriously because we knew the militarized nature of what was coming out of Wuhan, the Wuhan lab particularly, which has been a center of PLA, medicine and bioweapons in the bioweapon industry. It's like the Fort Detrick of China. And just to see the lies and misrepresentations done, the first time we reported on Fauci is when Peter Navarro called me. They'd had a huge fight in the Situation Room on the 23rd of January, where Tony Fauci was he said, spreading lies and disinformation from the very first meeting. This was about quarantining folks that were coming back from China, of which President Trump did, but only after Anthony Fauci made this huge fight that it didn't need to be done and nothing was going to be spread and it wasn't a problem. And he was getting over worried about it. This is the first days of it, or at least the first days became relevant in the United States. Also, I drilled down and found out, which we still haven't gotten, I think, out clearly enough, how Anthony Fauci, after Obama's National Security Council, remember, Obama's National Security Council put a hold on all gain-of-function research because they saw things come out of the University of Maryland and what was happening down the University of North Carolina that concerned the people on Obama's National Security Council. It was Fauci that very sneakily and cunningly went after the original HHS, head stepped down. He slipped over to the White House and got the thing changed. But we have a serious systemic problem. We have to take care of that. That's our duty. And it's not going to happen in the next couple of months. It's not going to happen in the next couple of years, but we must redouble our efforts. And this is why MAHA and MAGA are so important. And we continue to fight together, not just through this midterm. And I think you're starting to see President Trump's looking around going, hey, Bobby, how come you're not doing more on these vaccines? And we're sitting there going, what? The pollsters told you that was terrible and we had to shut it down because suburban moms didn't like it, which is absolutely the opposite of the truth. So for all of our colleagues out there in the MAHA movement, the War Room platform is available, and I'm more fighting mad than ever after the day. Remember, the War Room, as big as it is, and we're still banned on virtually every platform. Why we banned on it was for Tony Fauci. I'm the first guy to go after Tony Fauci. And in going after Tony Fauci, we were banned by Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of them. Every national platform we were taken off of. And still the show not just survived and grew. Why? Because people realize you can go get real information. And if you look at everything we reported, all the guests we had on it, particularly that first interview with Bobby Kennedy, just like shocked the audience. Because as you know, a lot of conservatives and right-wingers didn't really know much about Bobby at the time, just what they've been spoon-fed by the corporate media. And they loved this guy from the beginning. You know why they loved him? Because he's authentic, he's a fighter, and he's brilliant. And that's a pretty good combination. And that book, we sold hundreds of, I think the book sold 1.5 million copies with no support in the New York Times Fighting. I think we sold 400 copies. It's the reason Tony and I did a deal for War Room Books, because our audience couldn't get enough of it. And as you know, that book was like the phone book, right? It was like the phone book. People couldn't get enough of it, and they read it, and they want to have Bobby back on. They had chat groups about it, all of it. My point, we still have a massive, massive, massive mission in front of us, and we have to accomplish it. If we don't accomplish this mission of taking down this apparatus, I don't think anything else is going to matter, because this apparatus at the end will make us basically nothing more than Russian serfs. So, Tony, thank you so much, and thank you for introducing me to everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a great point, though, that battle never ends, but many of the problems haven't been solved. And we saw that with Fauci today, that so many of the Democrats coming out and saying, let's put this in the past, let's move forward. And we know we can't move forward till we solve some of these problems. And it kind of makes me think of this quote from the book, The Plague by Camus. And he writes, it could only be the record of what had to be done and what undoubtedly would have to be done again by all those who, while unable to be saints, but refusing to bow down to pestilence, strive their utmost to be healers. And I think you've really been a healer, because you question everything time after time. You're on the front lines questioning everything before anyone else does. And that's why you were willing to have Bobby Kennedy on. You're fearless, just not afraid of anybody. And Bobby came on, and it helped launch a movement where millions and millions of people knew that they'd been lied to, they'd been propagandized, and that what was happening had to stop. And now it has stopped, and now many of those people are in positions of power.
I came at this as
Thank you, Steve.
When we shifted the pandemic, I came with a blank slate, but I'm a pretty quick learner. But it was after reading Bobby's book and after those calls, I became the biggest advocate for Bobby Kennedy being President Trump's vice president, because of his fearlessness and his truthfulness and his brilliance and his authenticity and the fact he won't back down. And I think that all of us have to gird ourselves. We should replay in the quiet of the night. Everybody in this audience should just replay that Fauci, all of it. Because I can